Christian, thank you for taking out time today, and glad to have you on the Playnox. And for those who don't know, obviously you're the director of communications for the entire International Olympic Committee (IOC), based out of Switzerland, as we discussed Lausanne. So, Christian, first, talk about yourself. Tell me about your journey so far.
So my name, as you say, Taruka, I'm Christian. I'm 46 years old, living here in Lausanne, Switzerland, with a lake next to Olympic House here in Lausanne, and with the mountains just a few minutes away. A beautiful landscape. If you ever have the chance to come, don't miss it. Great to be here. Lausanne is also called the Olympic capital because you have all the sports federations of the world here. Around 50 international sports organizations are based here in Lausanne. It's really a great atmosphere. It's a city, with many expats, not just because of the sports organizations around, but because of many multinationals who have their headquarters around Lausanne. So nice place to come, and yes, a nice place to live, of course.
So, Christian, tell me about yourself, your journey so far. How did you end up in the sports world? Did you always want to, be in the communication, sports communication? So, maybe if you can take me through your journey.
I- I'm happy to do that, but let me see where I start. I probably start when I was 8 years old, when I started to do sport myself. I started to become a cyclist. I did that for 10, 15 years of my life. Training almost every day, going on bike rides, doing races, and being very committed, training as much as I could. I mean, I never made it because in the end it takes talent beyond dedication. Or besides dedication and beyond the talent which I actually had. That's why I never became a good cyclist. However, that kind of got me attracted to sport, and I stayed in the sports sector for many years. And then after I finished my high school, I went to work for a media outlet, for a newspaper. Then I traveled the world with an international group called Up With People. It was a international cultural exchange program, performing a musical show while traveling the world. And that's basically, by the way, I'd say it was on the cultural end, similar to what I see now in the Olympics world, because it was bringing the world together. We were a group of 180 people from 30 nations traveling around for 1 year, living in host families. So that was quite interesting at the time. And that was actually my break from sport, if you want. And if when I returned, then I was, I think, 22 or 23. I returned from that experience, and then I started to study sports communication. Started to work for an agency, SID, which belongs to AFP. AFP is known to everyone, and SID was kind of the German sports news agency. And then from there, I went on to the National Olympic Committee, becoming their spokesperson in 2009. And from there, I ended up in Lausanne, Switzerland, because the president of DOSB in 2009 was Thomas Bach, who then in 2013 became the IOC president. And I joined him here in Switzerland. I have to say, I never regretted it.
So great. I mean, you stayed for a very, very long time, I reckon, with IOC. And I'm sure with Olympics being the pinnacle body for sports in the world, your job must be very challenging. So how do you go about your job on a daily basis? What's your daily routine like?
I'd say it's probably one of the most interesting jobs I could ever have imagined to take up. To start with, my first Olympic experience, to tell you, was, I mean, the first real Olympic experience when being on site, while having been involved before on different levels remotely. But in 2006, I joined the Olympic Games in Torino as a journalist. I reported. And that was quite interesting because I was always sent to the daily press briefings of the organizing committee. So I saw the spokesperson of the organizing committee and the spokesperson of the IOC sitting there and, giving their daily reports. And that was interesting because it triggered me, right? I felt like that would be something which I would be interested in doing because it has an angle to it which is beyond communication. It's also a lot of management and organization, and that's what I love about my job. It's not just about communication; it's also about organization and management. And if you look at the daily routine here at the IOC, we are a team of about 45, 50 people here in the communications department. And we have also the public affairs side in our team here, but also the translation is part of our team. So that's why the number 45 is alone 9 people are from translation. Um, you see, it's a very diverse team when I say translation. Then we have public affairs, we have communication with our partners, we have the institutional communications, we have the web team, we have the media monitoring, media relation, games communication, Youth Olympic Games communication. We have images services which are with us. So there are many parts who are joining us here, and and in the end it's a team effort because it's like every single unit is contributing to the collective success of the team.
Absolutely, and it's brilliant to hear. I mean, obviously, you expect IOC to have a big, formidable team, because the kind of work which has only increased. Also, Christian, in the past, maybe like a decade, in the past decade, because of the advent of social media, things have really become fast-paced. How, from your perspective, how has social media impacted the sports communications industry? How has the communication sports industry evolved?
I think social media has done very many good things, but has also posed challenges, I think, which we are all still trying to manage. Looking at the opportunities which have come with social media, then clearly it's you can reach a large amount of people and a large audience without going through an interlocutor. That's certainly a very good thing for an organization like the IOC, for a company, for a media outlet. But the challenges coming with social media is the speed. You need to react so quickly that you sometimes don't have enough time to think and to kind of calm things down, find the right answer to sometimes or very often challenging and complex questions. And I'd say that's the downside. To the upside, overall, I don't think anybody of us wants to miss social media. But on the other hand, certainly, if we would all understand to kind of slow down things once in a while, take a little break, think about an answer, coming back with the right answer, that would be helpful. And that's kind of how we are working here as well, right? Speed is important, but accuracy should not be left behind.
Definitely. And also, Christian, you work with a lot of athletes. I mean, there'll be athletes all around you, always. So, mental health is something which we are thankfully now focusing on a lot, and it's required also, especially given the current scenario with COVID and everything. And especially last year was, it was a roller coaster ride because people didn't even know if the Olympics, for the first time in the history, it got postponed, and there was uncertainty about it. So, what do you think is are organizations giving enough importance to mental health now?
I'd say certainly this is a topic which has come to the surface in the last few years. If you look at it, what we have here as programs as the IOC for the athletes in the Olympic Village, we've just agreed that national Olympic committees can have an extra person at the games, to take care of these kind of questions. So it's something which has grown and is important because it goes actually back, I think, also to the question of the speed of today's society and the speed which is expected from you to come up with good answers to the most complex questions in the world. And that puts stress on people, which sometimes becomes unbearable. And I think that's why it's important to sometimes just to say, okay, let's calm down for 5 minutes. Let's look at the question. Let's come up with a good answer, and let's take the time we need in order to address everything. And if you look at it from the athlete side, you know the pressure also, which is coming from social media on the athletes, the expectation from the fans, the reaction from the fans, if you lose or if you win, it's sometimes very extreme. You know, it's extreme in joy, but it's also extreme in disappointment. And that's hard for many to balance. And that's why I think we all need help. And that's why mental health is an important topic, which is growing in its importance day by day.
Absolutely, and I'm sure, and I know IOC is doing a lot, to encourage and raise awareness about it among the athletes globally. Uh, which comes to my next question, and that is, inclusion and diversity. Also, I don't think it's a buzz topic anymore. I mean, people are going beyond superficial. Obviously, it became very prominent. Oh, inclusion and diversity. Everyone was talking about it, but were people actually implementing it? Maybe not so many. But we've seen with IOC, inclusion and diversity has really taken a center spot in their strategy and everything. So, what is your perception of how much inclusion and diversity has changed from if you compare it, in the past 10 years?
I would say if you look at that topic, it's a topic where, as you rightly say, where it moved from awareness to implementation. And I think if you look at the IOC, we had in Tokyo for the first time gender balanced games, in the sense of, we had almost the same number of women at the games than men. And in Paris, we will from the outset allocate the same number of quota places, meaning places, in order to participate at the games, to women than we do to men. So we'll have absolutely full balance in Paris. We have now, if you look at the game side as well, we have the opportunity for every team to have one woman and one man participating at the games at the same time. So we work with the quota places for the National Olympic Committees, so that all of them at each edition of the Summer Games can have one woman and one man in their team, so that all the 206 NOCs will have, hopefully, when we come to Paris, one woman and one man. It was a bit difficult in Tokyo, to be fair, because of the COVID-19 restrictions. But we also have the joint flag bearers at the opening ceremony, where we have one man and one woman carrying the flag of each National Olympic Committee. All of these are great symbols which we see on the field of play. Beyond that, I'd say it's also sport, and overall is very inclusive and diverse. Where else do you find 206 National Olympic Committees sending delegations and sending teams to a sport event? And that's what you have at the Olympic Games. And I'd say, diversity and inclusion has always been there, but it has become even stronger now. But not just on the field of play, but also if you look off the field of play, where in the IOC, there have been tremendous achievements. If you look at the IOC commissions, we have now almost 48% women in the IOC commissions. We have grown the number of women in the IOC membership. Now I think I don't have the exact number, but it's 37%, I believe, right now. The number of women in the IOC membership, the number of women in the IOC executive board is growing. So a lot of initiatives have actually now been implemented and led to the changes. And if you look at the IOC administration, for instance, we have over 50 nations, 50 nations having employees here. I mean, of course, they are not employees of the nations, but the employees of the IOC come from over 50 nations. We have a very fair balance of women in sports, of women and men in the IOC. It's 50-50. It's actually, I think we have a slightly higher number of women in the IOC than in the IOC administration than men. So I'd say, you know, if you want to come to a diverse organization, and we have 550, 600 employees here, then the IOC, you know, is for sure a good place to come to.
And what would you like to say to all the youngsters and who just started out their career in sports management and and dream of working with international Olympic committees? I know there are a lot of internships available as well,
Mhm.
and a lot of funding programs also which IOC rules are. So, what kind of candidates do you look for, and you know uh, what kind of skill set is do you think people should have to apply when they're planning to apply at the IOC?
Um, I think it's a very generic question to which I wouldn't have a generic answer, because I'd say the skill set very much depends on the position you apply for. So if you look across the board, and I said in the beginning how many units we have alone here in the communications department. But if you then would look across the IOC, you see many more projects and units which could be interesting for youngsters. But what I would say is you need to be open-minded, number one. You need to be dedicated. You need to kind of love the idea of what the IOC and what the Olympics stand for, bringing the world together in peaceful competition, you know, in harmony and in solidarity. If you can, stand behind that, and if you can carry that in your heart, and bring it out in your daily work, that's certainly something which is important, and which then is a good way in. And then you of course need for every job specific qualification, which I cannot define now in general, but it really depends on the job description. But the dedication you need to have is important. And what also is helpful is of course language, meaning living in Switzerland. Of course, French is very helpful when you come to Lausanne, and English as well. These are the two languages which are certainly of importance if you come to the IOC, or if you want to come to the IOC. And then experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Christian, for answering all my questions today. You can now just stop the recording so that I can just talk to you.
Okay, I've stopped the recording, and now hold on.
Save it.
No, 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 no. I haven't stopped it.
Yes, you have, because it still says someone recording.
Ah, stop recording and transcription.